I know you just said we paid $129,000.
Right.
I mean, what did we get out, what is, where are we at moving forward?
Okay, where we are now, the last meeting we had, as far as this remaining debt that you see here, I'm gonna refer to the mayor.
So I can answer that.
Go ahead.
They being Mr. Johnson and the mayor have given me what they are going to propose to the city council to draft it up into an agreement for the city council to look at their November meeting, at their first meeting in November.
Right.
So it's not been, their proposal to you as to what could be proposed to the university will come to you first, but I haven't drafted it yet, so they gave that to me a few days ago.
So that talks about what we already owe. My question is pertaining to, you said we're gonna be paying the full amount. The reason why we were paying 30% was because the rate changed and we were not contacted. And before we knew it, the bill was astronomically larger and we cannot afford to pay the current bill at that current rate. So when we say we're paying the full amount, is the full amount at the same rate that we couldn't afford to pay?
That's right.
Let me shed some light on it. What we're looking at is the development around the city. Some $34 million hit the tax appraisal rolls. As a result of that, we, this year, in this budget, have approximately $441,000 that we didn't have 12 months ago. So that's what's sharing with you, that increased property tax with development around the city is generating additional revenue so we can pay this bill now instead of a portion of it and stop getting bigger.
What is the current monthly rate? So what are we looking at paying? What is the total number that we're looking to pay per month? The dollar number?
It will, it fluctuates. The high might be 35,000, the low might be 20,000.
And so what was the rate that we were paying before the rate changed?
I can't tell you the exact numbers right now, but I can look it back up.
It was under 20.
Yeah. We did discuss it in our meetings, and in the meeting that we had with them, basically,
So we're
they
saying,
didn't budge.
so what we're saying is our financial situation has changed from the time that the rate was changed, and we couldn't afford it, now we can afford to pay. Are we still going to try to negotiate the rate? Because the issue is the fact that the university is paying for all of the overhead administration, and they're reflecting the debt onto the citizens of Prairie. So I guess that's not a question for you, but
We do
Is that-
plan to,
is that something
along
that's
with,
included
along
into?
with,
Because we're paying for them to have a level of administration, then they have another level of administration over that, and we're paying for that rate.
Right, so one of the things that I believe we'll bring back to you at the same time is we're asking USW to look at the methodology they used
Right.
in their rate study as well, to see whether or not it bears out or whether there's some discrepancy in that. And that will all be up to city council to approve whether the final number is good, bad, they want further negotiations or what. But that, I mean, it's not done. We have made a concerted decision to bring it back to council with some recommendations that include the engineers, include Mr. Johnson, and a form of a loan agreement.
So, Mr. Mayor, the rate study you're saying is gonna be included, or that's something, we've been talking,
They're gonna bring it to us for us to approve.
but the rate study is what shows why they're charging us this rate, which, again, we've been waiting on that for 3 years. I want us to be very clear that just because we bring in more income to the city, more development, that is not the reason why we need to pay more in a rate. The citizens need to pay more in a rate. And to justify by that is not necessarily the direction. That's why we've been only paying 35% for the last 3 years, trying to negotiate what the rate is gonna be. And if the rate increased 50%, where was our negotiation? And we, hopefully, the information that we'll have in November will allow us to be able to have some leeway, and we're not back where we was at, because we've accumulated $858,000 in debt by not paying the whole bill. The second thing is the number you talked about, the $129,260.44. Why was that not brought back to city council for us to approve that? Now, I think that was something that we all would have probably agreed on doing, but part of the process is that no check should have been written from the city of Prairie View without coming before city council. So if that's something that needs to be done, we need to make sure that that comes back to city council so we can make sure that our records accurately shows that we made that approval.
Actually, city council approved that, paying that bill many years ago.
Did you,
Let me finish, I didn't interrupt you, just be quiet, hold on. You say this bill was accumulated in the last 3 years, implying my 3 years as mayor. This bill is about 4 years old, the first 8 months was not paid. It started 7 months before I came in, and it was never addressed. So you have 7 months of the entire unpaid balance that was not paid. So it wasn't just the whole 3 years. Now, when you say the balance on the $650,000 loan, you approved that years ago. So for us to pay it off versus paying $4,500 a month is not something that requires approval. It's like the budget. You've already approved it. It's not like you didn't know about it. You paid every month for your 10 years of being up here.
Mr. Mayor, this
So-
was never derogatory to you.
No,
You
no.
made it personal. I'm
No, no.
saying about the $129,000. If we can't, you can't say council approved it for you. We cannot encumber this council 2020 and 2019-2020's budget for something that you said we did 4 years ago, or however long it was. I'm saying simply, it should have been brought back to city council. I think we would have agreed with whatever terms came, but understand the process, and so please don't take it personal. But we do need to bring that back because because the $129,000 didn't get city council approval, and I'm just trying to help you and the city out.
No, I don't need your help. This is a bill that's been going on for a long time and you did nothing about it, now I got paid. So, where are we with
Attorney,
your report?
Attorney Griffin, can you give us some information on that,
Councilman?
I'll tell you, JJ,
Okay. Anything
As
else,
far as
Mr.
that-
Johnson?
can I speak to the
I'm just
attorney?
open
As far
to
as that
it.
expenditure, attorney, could you give some clarity?
Mr. Mayor?
On the paying of a bill,
Yes.
that's a duly obligated bill. And I'll make sure they get paid every month. Matter of fact, our rating has gone from A to A+ because we pay our bills on time or in advance now. So the payment of a bill, it doesn't come back to council each month.
Great job, man.
Let me just say this for the sake of council. That particular bill that we just paid, we were very delinquent on that bill.
Yeah.
So because the bill, the total money was really to be paid. You only had about 3 or 4 months left on it. And so we were very delinquent. So basically what we did was we brought it current.
I agree. I'm not saying, I'm saying we agree.
Mhm.
I'm saying it needs to be paid, but I'm saying that it's a bill from 4 years ago. You can't just, I mean, it's a delinquent, this is a delinquent, this is a delinquent debt from past years. All I'm saying is since we took care of that debt from past years, it should have came back to council simply for us to approve the expenditure. That is it. Because this is something that had happened this year to where the mayor could say, oh yeah, I'm gonna use the money in the budget. It come from past years. And all I'm simply asking is the attorney to give us clarification.
So, Mr. Mayor, if it was a budgeted line item, it would not have to come back to city council. So as long as it was approved as a payment in the original budget for last year, and there was the agreement from 4 years ago, it would not have to come back to city council. Now, I don't know whether or not it was in the budget.
It's been in the budget to pay that every year for like
To pay
7
it.
years.
It transcends over 2.5 years. It was in the budgets for those periods. And what we did, we simply
Mr. Johnson,
trapped the funds and we paid it.
wasn't the $650,000 debt that former Mayor Jackson signed with former
Yes.
President Wright, that's been like 7 years. And it's been in the budget to pay the bill
Well,
every year.
15-year note.
Yeah, it's been
It was a
longer than that.
15-year note.
Okay,
It's been
so-
15 years.
Okay, but it's
Right.
been in the budget
Oh,
to
yeah,
pay
right.
that bill.
Every year, it's in the budget to pay.
Okay, that's all we need. Councilman Randall, you have a point.
JJ, do you have
Yeah.
anything more pressing that we need to discuss?
So-
You need to move the agenda.
Well, so I do need to be clear, because this is something where there could be a liability to the city, so I may have an obligation to say something to you.
Please.
As long as it was in the budget to pay, you can pay it without coming back to city council. But the dollar amount it has to have been in the budget.
Right, there
Meaning
were.
the entire,
But-
not one this year, then you went to the next year, then you went to the next year. As long as that total 129,000, whatever the dollar amount was covered in last year's budget alone, then you need to
Right,
take action
okay.
by city
So
council.
that was.
Then you do
it-
need
it-
to
it
take
was-
action.
It transcended over 2.5 years.
Okay, so part of it would have been in the budget,
Right, mhm.
part of it wouldn't.
But it was
So,
in the budget each year.
doesn't matter, it had to
Okay.
have been in the year that you paid the dollar amount. So that's what we need to come back and fix, is whatever amount wasn't in last year's budget, we need to fix that. And we can get that
We'll
done.
do whatever we need to do. It's not a
Whatever
problem.
we need to do.
Anything else from Mr. Johnson, council? Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, JJ.
Item 9, discuss and take action on contract renewal for Mr. Johnson as bookkeeper. What's council's pleasure?
I think we had to add some numbers to his contract. correct?
Yeah, so you have a new one before you this evening, and let me point out just a couple of issues, and Mr. Johnson and I discussed this earlier today, and I believe we're on the same page.
The new ones have the yellow sticky note. This is the new ones.
That's the professional services agreement, the
Yes.
bookkeeping services?
Yes. Okay, so let me point out the only changes that are in here, and you can see if you're looking at the right one.
We don't have it.
We don't have it.
This one? Yes, they all have it. They're not- they're not-
It's in the packet.
Oh, yes.
Got it.
I didn't see the yellow sticky note.
My bad, Ms. Bottom. Yeah, it was on the table.
So we need numbers on page 2?
Okay, on page 2, you will need to fill in a not to exceed amount.
You know, what you feel like you worth.
It's in there.
Nah,
It's
The-
listed in there.
You have more or less an average billing now,
What you mean?
an average monthly? Because this is a.
Well, it's gonna fluctuate.
It's gonna fluctuate, so what you're gonna wanna do is take your total budget number divided by 12, and come up with your total not to exceed.
You mean told not to exceed for the year? Is that what you're trying
You
to
can do
put
it per year,
No,
you
it says
can,
per month.
well, but you can do it either way, it's up to city
Well,
council.
You have heavy months, so
Alright, so
you really have to put for the year,
all right, so what do we pay for the,
50,000.
all right, so not to exceed 50.
Yeah, right. Not to exceed 50,000.
And then change the month to year.
Not
Okay.
to exceed 56.
Yeah, 56, you say so.
Nah, I'm dead serious.
No, really, not
It can't be more than what's in the budget, so use your top number in the budget, if it's 50,000 in the budget, that's the number without coming back and amending the budget.
Now, I got a question about that. Because of the flexibility of it, there's a variable piece in there. Now, that could get to the point if they request different work, that it might exceed what's in the budget.
Yep, so it can be changed, but you'd have to do a budget amendment as well,
Okay,
so it can come back and all be done at the same time.
So if you keep up with the budget,
Look
you'll
at the
let us
budget, the
know.
budget
Close.
is, now, the budget in accounting, it also includes the other accounts too.
Okay.
So,
So what's in the budget,
What's
Mr.
the
Johnson?
number?
I don't have it.
Oh, man, there you go.
Well, we can include in the motion that it won't exceed the total amount of the budget as approved by city council for those two line items. I guess is what you're saying. But wait, let me show you the other two changes so that you know. On page 3, we've added in 6.4 and 6.5.
Page 3.
Yep.
Whoever's in the budget.
And those were in Mr. Johnson's original contract. We had taken them out, they're not part of our professional services agreements typically, they're underlined as 6.4 and 6.5.
You said we're taking those out?
Page 3?
We had taken them out, Mr. Johnson asked that they be put back in, And we did put them back in, but with a little bit of a caveat words to where we were comfortable with the language being in there.
Okay.
So that's a negotiated term between our firm and him.
What would be the difference? What is the difference?
The only difference is at the end of 6.5, we added in everything starting with the word unless, saying we're actually known to consultant or should have been known by consultant in the actual scope of services here and agreed to. So basically, these clauses say, hey, I'm not an auditor, you're responsible for your own books, I'm not. And this has been in the contracts that you've had with him for years. We said, basically, it's not in our professional services agreement. Why would you have a bookkeeper if they're not gonna point out known illegalities? And so what we changed it to was known or should have known in your jobs, in the scope of services you're doing. We agree, you're not the auditor. You're not obliged to find everything that could be found. But if you knew it, if you actually knew it and didn't tell us, that's a problem. Or if you should have known it in this particular scope of services, what you're actually doing for us and what you're agreeing to do for us, then that's,
So 6.4 and 6.5, you said to add back in.
yes, with the additional language. And then the last thing was just on the scope of the insurance, we left that at the discretion of the mayor, in accordance with industry standards, because it's not typically something that he would provide to you,
Are
only
you
in
looking
certain
at the insurance on
circumstances.
page 5, item 9?
Yeah, page 6. It's near the end of 9.3 on page 6, under insurance requirement, and it's underlined.
So I guess part of. Could we, I mean, I like to, be in the contract with paying to the attorneys, but my issue was, I think, I don't know if it was an agenda item previously, or we were supposed to move it to, in reference to roles, because it speaks to the contract, right? So roles, because we have a city treasurer.
Can I give you something on that?
Yes, sir.
Here you go.
Oh, you got
That's map
something.
out roads.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Turning it into.
I may already have, is that the,
It's just a synopsis, small synopsis of who does what.
oh, okay, great.
Well,
And
what
then-
you have there, if I can address that, I just kind of put this together here, just a small synopsis of the roles of the treasurer in relationship with your bookkeeper. Your treasurer basically is responsible in, if you look at her job description, it goes into more detail, but I just tried to map out the flow of data here. The treasurer primarily will handle your payments. Basically, for payments to take place, we have a purchase order system. And that's one of the major activities that she's responsible for. She's responsible for that purchase orders are prepared for all departments. General administration, municipal court, police, and public works. Those are your departments. She prepares those purchase orders, and once she gets the purchase order, she checks with the budget to see if funds are in the budget to cover that particular purchase. If those funds are in the budget, she then will take that purchase order to the mayor for approval. The mayor approves that purchase order, and that purchase order then is ready for the purchase request to be made. Either she can make that, or a department head can then make the purchase. Once the purchase is made, the invoice come in. When the invoice comes in, it's compared with the purchase order. That's her duty, is to see that all invoices did have a purchase order for those invoices. Also, in this system here, for your recurring bills such as your utilities, like telephone bill and what have you, you would have one purchase order for that utility, because you're gonna get that every month. Your recurring bills, she would have one purchase order for that, and that purchase order would reference that particular invoice, what have you. Once the invoices come in, She's responsible for making payments for all invoices. She either cuts a check, or the city does have a credit card we can use to make payments through credit card. And some payments are made ACH, directly from the bank account. And she has to be aware of what payments are ACH, that are made directly from the bank account. She then does all this activity during the month. Okay, once she's done all that, then what she gives to the bookkeeper, she provides me with the bank statements. Also, she's responsible for all funds coming into the city. Funds meaning permit funds, primarily franchise taxes, and miscellaneous funds from copies and refunds. And she gets the property tax money, comes in through ACH, coming to the bank. And then she's responsible for she receives the monthly billing from the Public Works Department, and she takes all monies, and she receives monies from the municipal court, as far as deposits that need to be made. She makes all bank deposits. She primarily goes to the bank every day to make deposits, and she normally should do that at the same time every day. That's called her cutoff time. And she would do all that. Now, in doing all this here, she then would, at the end of the month, she would provide to me all of the bank activity that has taken place. She'd also provide the bank statements. And from the bank statements, that's where I pick up what revenues have come into the city. And I can compare what's on the bank statement with what she has in any details as far as the permits go or franchise. That's a double check that we can make. I can look and see what's in the bank, and she then can go to her detailed reports for franchise or permits, and hopefully if there's a discrepancy, we can ward that off at that point. That is a control check right there. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I got a question.
Mhm.
You talking about your contract there?
No, he asked me for the process. He wanted to know the separation of duties.
Yeah, so his duties are also in his contract in Exhibit
You
A,
need to see this to see.
the very back.
Yeah,
And then
okay.
he's using this to explain to you how that
I'm
integrates.
just walking
with-
you through what all she
treasurer.
does and what I do, how there's a separation there. So basically, she's a front end. Everything I've described to you is what takes place on the front end. Okay, and then what I do, I come in as your bookkeeper, I receive all of the check information, the credit card that she's taken in, and the payment data from the treasurer. I also receive payroll information from Williams Solution. They do your payroll. I get all the bank statements from the treasurer, because I need that information. All this is needed to put together a general ledger that I give you every month, to record all the activity that the city, all the transactions that happen for the city during the month. We receive the billing report from Public Works, so we can record the public work activity. Then we make interdepartment transfers. We receive from the municipal court the revenue that they've taken in. And then we receive the property tax information from the Waller County School District. We need that information to properly record that information within your general ledger. We also receive from the state of Texas the sales taxes. That's where we get the sales taxes that the city receives, and we disseminate those sales taxes between the city, street maintenance, and economic development B. We then all this data that I just referenced, we have to then process that data by coding it to the proper account in the proper department. Once we've done all of that, then that all goes into our accounting program, and then that's where we then generate the general ledger, which generates the balance sheet and the revenue disbursement reports, which also compares the actual to budget. In addition to that, we do prepare a report every month. We pay your sales taxes to the state of Texas. That's for your trash charges. And then on a quarterly basis, we pay the municipal court collections report. We did it on a quarterly basis. And that, just quickly there, you can, that just kind of gives you all an understanding of how we work together.
Where are the IRS payments in here?
Which IRS payments?
The ones we receive invoices for?
Which IRS payments? You don't receive any IRS payments.
Yeah, we do, we've had.
Well, you talking about,
checks.
well, no, your payroll, the payroll, Williams Solutions, they make those, they send that request in to the treasurer to make those payments. Your 941 reports and what have you. That's done through Williams Solutions, and then it goes through her, that payroll activity. As far as the payments go, they request it, and she makes payment. Also, the TMRS payment goes through her.
Do you fill out any IRS?
Well, yeah,
You
we
do
do
the
the
1099s.
1099s. We do the 1099s at the end of the year.
Okay,
Right.
so we wanna add that.
That's in,
It's in
well,
there.
it's in my contract.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just didn't list it here.
This is a nice flow,
Yeah,
so I
right.
think you might
That's
wanna
wonderful.
add it. Also, under where it says pay invoices up top,
Mhm.
and, I think we need not just to add the ACH that you mentioned, but I think we need a list of what's ACH, what's paid by ACH. debit,
Right, right.
So that we can track it,
Mhm.
just since we
Yeah,
don't
right.
have an invoice for it.
We're working right now between her and myself
Yeah.
of putting in what I kind of alluded to. Control checks from the front end that I can now look at and we can try and add to the control of those activities.
Sure, no, she and I have been talking about it, and this would help alleviate some of the
Right.
problems we've had in the past.
Right.
So that's why we open this stuff up. Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
I just found out what we supposed to pay you on average.
Yeah. Yeah, in the budget is 35.8.
Oh, man, so
That's
it's gonna
in the
bring
budget.
us a minute.
Huh? Oh, yeah, I need an amendment for that. No, 45.
That's what the budget said?
No, the budget's 35.8.
But she said that we gotta bring back an amendment, right? For 30
No.
Change it.
well, you can make an amendment as you're making the motion to fill in the blank on page 2 and just say in an amount not to exceed the amount as approved by city council in their budgeting process each year.
So the amount we're talking about only city council portion, we're not talking about the other portions that he may get from doing the other entities. So this is just only specific for us, correct?
I think,
No, the not to exceed total includes the scope of if you look at exhibit A, it
Yeah.
includes, the city council, I think you're thinking is just the end, these additional things, the budget and the revenue and all of that. It would include all of it, so it would include more than one line item. But it would include approval for his services for everything listed in exhibit A.
The reason why I say he does economic,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry, of
that's
course,
separate.
yes, only city, yes.
Correct, okay, that's
Yes,
what I was trying.
that's 100% separate, yes.
it's just that, in this, okay.
Anything else?
The line item is 35.3.
I don't have anything else, I just wanted, Mr. Johnson, did you, while you're preparing this, we asked for some information, you're gonna get us the information on that, the scope of work?
I need y'all to be a little more specific when you say scope of work. What
I thought that's
work?
what you just said.
No, he's supposed to, that's his scope of work, but we approved for him to be working on some things, and so we want,
What thing?
Yeah.
they were supposed to do an internal audit, so we talked about the POs
I
and.
need to know
and-
exactly,
The process that he gave us in front of us is not we just wanna make sure that we're using that process, right? And so, it was just a simple remember, we only got the treasurer a couple months ago. And so, we wanna make sure that the roles have kinda converted or changed over.
that's what I just gave you.
That's what this was.
That's what I just
We've been
gave.
working on that, and that's what he just shared with you. The roles, how they interact, who does what, that's what he just shared.
Right, but
Unless you want something else.
no, he said he was gonna, so last meeting, we approved a internal audit on the same controls that he just presented to us. I asked him last meeting, and I've talked to Ms. Johnson, I sent him an email and Ms. Johnson about the scope of work, about the internal audit that city council approved at the last meeting. We are approving his contract on work, and I was asking him, when did he plan to give us the scope of work moving forward?
Well, I need you to be a little more specific because I didn't understand what you're actually asking.
I think the question might be, because they've met a few times and we've met and talked about it. And this is the scope of work
Okay.
that they came up with, unless there's something else that you want. Okay.
Alright, so, even though it's 35.8 in the budget, I could amend that tonight by putting 45 and changing.
Well,
Say with the amendment,
I,
and then do the amendment later.
You make it to whatever is in the budget, and then you go back, and you amend the budget. So
Yeah.
you say, that way you don't have to change the dollar amount every year, so you just,
Say 45, and
no,
then.
you don't say it.
You get the number.
You just say up to whatever is
Yeah,
included into the.
I would fill in the blank by adding the words when it says, in an amount not to exceed the amount as approved by city council each year in its annual budget.
Alright, so you gotta bring this back up. Alright, so I move that we approve item agenda number 9, not to exceed the amount that the budget for the contract renewal with Mr. J.J. Johnson as bookkeeper.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that Mr. Johnson's contract be approved not to exceed the amount that city council approved in the budget for his contract renewal. Further motion, ready for the question?
Question.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same right? Record shows unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Where are we, council reports?
I move that we move council reports to the end of the agenda.
Second.
It's been properly moved, the council reports be moved to the end of the agenda. You've heard the motion, ready for the question?
Council report, and mayor report.
I'll set a friendly amendment to make it council reports and mayor report.
It's been properly moved and seconded. You've heard the motion, ready for the question?
Question.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Item T.
I oppose.
Okay, Councilman Wallace opposed.
Good, I feel like they should know.
We move to the end.
Council, number 10, discuss and take action on confirming Mayor Allen's appointed finance committee members, Councilwoman Williams, Councilman Jones, Mr. Johnson, and Ms. Johnson.
Michael, Attorney Griffin, and the ordinance, that we approved, it said 3 council members.
Yes,
All right, so Mr. Mayor, could you appoint another council member to this committee?
It's open, where I can do that tonight, so that since it's not on agenda.
sure.
Okay. I'd like to nominate Councilman Randall. Okay.
All right, so I move that we approve I approve that we confirm that Mayor Allen's appointed finance committee members, Councilman Randall, Councilman Williams, Councilman Jones, Mr. Johnson, and Ms. Johnson.
Second.
You've heard the motion, ready for the question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right? Motion passed. Item 11, discuss 30-day written reports from Trilogy
Mayor.
Engineering.
Ms. Jackson.
Oh,
Jackson.
on item 11, Ms. Jackson, remind me.
It's final. That's the goal.
So just to be brief, I just want to again express my gratitude